today's show.
Dame Dalla does it again. We'll discuss Lillard's 37-foot game winner and that cold-blooded wave goodbye.
Should the Thunder move on from Westbrook? Are the Spurs done versus Denver? What did we learn from the Sixers and Raptors series wins?
And we count down a few of the NBA's all-time series-clinching buzzer beaters.
It's Wednesday, April 24th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to The Starters, presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm J.E. Skeets, alongside me as always, Tass Mellis. We got the Aussie Lee Ellis, and over yonder, that's the bearded one, that's Trey Kirby.
Hey-yo!
Hey, yo! Trey, what's up?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, we saw an all-time great playoff moment last night when Damian Lillard capped off his 50-point night with a 37-foot three-pointer right in Paul George's face to win the series for the Blazers. Such a shot, Lee had to recreate it at the park this morning.
A chance to send the Thunder home. Lillard, long-range three, and it's good! At the buzzer!
Whoa, it's identical.
Lee legend is what they call him, and it brings us to today's question. What are some other iconic moments that you want Lee Ellis to recreate? For instance, I'm pretty confident that Lee could hit LeBron's famous game winner against the Magic. He's got the quick release, he's got the touch from deep, he's got the crazy celebrations. I also think Lee could make Klay Thompson's weird foot three from Game 6 against the Thunder back in 2016, but I want to see, most of all, Lee try to recreate Brandon Knight's wide open game-winning layup that he completely botches. Lee, I know you would nail this one. Maybe we'll even get super happy Nets fan there to celebrate with you. Whatever it is, we want to hear from you. So let us know on Twitter, what other iconic moments do you want Lee to recreate, because he will do anything. Just send them to us. Hashtag the starters.
I'm definitely going to do those three.
You're going to try them tomorrow morning, yeah?
Why not
call
after
up
the
Kaplan,
show?
Hey, Kaplan, get down to the park.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. We got a fun show tonight. Obviously, tons to talk about. We'll get into the Raptors and Sixers closing out their first-round series. We'll debate whether the Nuggets have figured out the Spurs and can close their series out. We got a very solid play from this man here, but let's start with some true or false, looking back at, well, let's be honest, one particular game, heck, one moment from last night. Trey.
Damian Lillard is in the business of making people look stupid, and business is booming. Because after last night's 50-piece with a side of game winner, the Blazers are advancing to the second round of the playoffs. None of us picked Portland, and the Thunder were definitely talking more trash in this series. So guys, true or false? Damian Lillard shut everybody up.
Yeah, there's nothing left to say. What is left to say other than, you're the man, Damian? He was incredible, yes. But coming into the season, we all doubted whether the Blazers would be a good team.
Yeah.
They got swept the last two postseasons. And we thought, oh, maybe the parts around them can make a better team. But we all really knew it was going to come down to Damian Lillard. And Damian has propelled himself into a very elite group of guys that can win a playoff series on their own. KD, LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi, James Harden, and Curry, I think, are those guys. And that's it.
Right.
They shouldn't have won this game. But Damian Lillard had 47 points going into that last shot. CJ McCollum not having a great game until the fourth quarter. And then he decides, no timeout, I'm making this happen.
From 37 feet.
He's propelled himself into an entirely new player this year. This is a new Dame.
It's true. That's true. He shut up the media, including us, as Trey said, who a lot of us out there picked OKC to win in 5, 6, maybe 7. He shut up the haters who doubted, Lillard, whether he could do it in a playoff game, in a playoff series, what he does in the regular season. Could this coexist with McCollum and all that? And then he shut up Russell Westbrook and OKC is really what he did with that shot. I mean, I still can't get over the wave goodbye, how cold-blooded. Like, the shot is one thing, the 37-foot bomb to end a series, but it's a whole other thing to act that cool, that badass with the little wave goodbye and then getting mobbed. That is just a next level.
Especially because he's waving like a toddler.
Yes.
When you teach a kid how to say goodbye, you teach him to close the open and close wave, not the side to side.
The close way is shut up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a goodbye, it's a shut up.
But if that was Dwayne Wade, he's running around, he's jumping up on the scorer's table. Dame's
Which is fine.
Yeah,
Which is fine.
No doubt about it. But Dame is just kind of like, he expected it almost. This to
Right.
him wasn't
Yes.
like, oh, wow, that went in.
No.
He was like, I'm actually going to hit this shot and
Yes.
close this series out right now, which, by the way, was a contested shot, and Paul George was right there, but Dame stepped back and knocked it in. And that, to me, is what, like we talked about this a little bit earlier in the series, he had that look in his eyes, that confidence, like, I'm winning this series, whether I have to do it all myself or not. And the 50 points, the 10 threes is sort of a signal of that. But the fact that he had that last shot, Terry Stotts had a timeout, could have called it, but he was like, no, Dame wants this, he's going to go out there and deliver it. And then he did. And he was just like, well, I didn't expect any different result from
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah. And
He's like Brand somehow. He knows the past, he knows the future, he
I
knows
don't know
what's
what that
going to
means,
happen.
but I
I know
tried to
you
take your word for
He
it.
does, and everybody else out there knows what.
Yeah, well, this playoff series is by far and away his best playoff series win. You know, they beat the Rockets way back when, 2014, when he hit another buzzer-beating clincher. They beat a banged-up Clippers team, but he looks like a new man. The coolness factor even trickles down to his teammates. He had Seth Curry in the corner in front of the Thunder bench saying, he's going to hit this as he dribbles down. I'm whispering like Bran all of a sudden. Seth knew it. Everybody knew it. But let's get to Paul George and how he called it a bad shot post-game, because we're all debating, was that a bad shot? It was a very deep shot. Let's listen to Paul George.
I mean, that's a bad shot. Care what anybody says, that's a bad shot. But, hey, he made it. That story won't be told, that it was a bad shot. We live with that.
He sounded a little like Stan Van Gundy. Right? The
Right.
story when the ball is in the
Yeah.
air, don't worry whether it goes in. But do you buy that? A bad shot?
Well, it
'Cause
depends who's
it's not
shooting.
really for Dame Lillard.
No, it depends
Yeah.
who's shooting. And Damian Lillard can hit that shot. Steph Curry can hit that shot. Maybe Klay Thompson can hit that shot, and maybe Kevin Durant. But the fact is that Damian Lillard chose to take that shot. This wasn't like he ran up with only 1 or 2 seconds to go and flung the ball at the hoop. He could have maybe gone a bit closer, could have driven inside, but instead he had practiced that shot with his trainer, he talked about it, and he went to that shot deliberately, feeling and believing that he could make it. So it's not a bad shot then. It's a bad shot if you're out of rhythm and you're not in a spot that you feel you can make shots, and he's got a good percentage of hitting shots from that sort of range in the game. So that, to me, is a shot with a safety net, knowing that if you miss it, you're going to overtime.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad shot because he had been hitting them all series. And Paul George had seen them up close and personal this far away, up every single game in this series.
Where he's hitting these 35 or 30-plus bombs. Yeah.
It started with the first possession of game one.
That's 2 on Paul George right there.
Right. And Paul George saw one in this game a little bit earlier. Third quarter, first possession again. Paul George is watching it happen
Pretty
right
similar.
there. Yeah, it was a step back, so it was a little bit more difficult than walking into them. We're showing you all that he sort of walked into, so it was tough. He made it look easy. Lee made it look easy. It's not an easy shot to make whatsoever. But yeah, maybe he doesn't take it if they're down 1 or 2. Either way, he was ready to take that shot. Like you said, he practiced it. And the numbers back it up. It's a great shot. And he can't do it every single time. He knows that.
Yeah.
But it made a 50-point night. It was a perfect night.
Unbelievable. Trey, next question.
All right, Russell Westbrook had 29 points and a triple-double last night. That's great. But he also took 31 shots and the Thunder lost. Not so great. The losses here are the problem, as OKC is now 4-12 in the playoffs since Kevin Durant's departure. Russ is 30 years old and the Thunder owe him huge money for the next 2 seasons. So guys, true or false, OKC should move on from Russell Westbrook.
Wow.
Well, listen, I don't know if this is true or false, but something has to change, clearly, with the way, because Russell Westbrook's game is great in the regular season, but it simply doesn't translate to playoff success. It's not all his fault. Of course, it's not all his fault. He's a fantastic competitor and a great athlete. But when it comes to the playoffs, he simply cannot take his team to a next level, because in the 3 seasons since Kevin Durant has gone, they've won 4 games. One of those games they were lucky to win. It took an incredible comeback. So it's not like they've even been really close to advancing. And whatever Sam Presti in the front office does there, they have to figure out a way to maximise Russell's skills, but maybe take the ball out of his hands or stop him from shooting those mid-rangers, even 3-pointers, because he's incredible at getting to the lane. He can get inside and score around the rim, but there's something that's not right with the way that he's playing. It's not leading to playoff success. All those triple-doubles are great, but really, we've talked about it as well in the past. Is the triple-double now devalued? And I think the answer is most likely, because how can a guy put up 3 straight years of averaging a triple-double but then only win 4 games in the playoffs? There's something wrong there. There's something missing.
There's no way they can do it, though. You trade him, you're not going to get any better. There's just no chance you get better. Paul George re-signed to play with Russell Westbrook. You trade Russell Westbrook, you're not getting back a guy who's as good as him. That being said, you got to do something within your cap sheet. Because to me, yeah, he took a tiny step back this year when he said, Paul George, you're sort of the number one guy, I'll shoot less.
Yeah, he did adjust his style of play a little bit. Yeah.
But it didn't work, though.
No, it didn't.
No.
So looking at it, I would say get another scorer in there, and maybe it takes even less shots. I think that's the
you
only
need
way.
some shooters. I
Surround
think is
him
what
with shooters, and
Right.
have him.
You guys
beat
saying
those
bring
shooters.
back Melo?
But with the cap sheet there, it's basically impossible
Right, what
to
are you
bring
gonna do?
anybody in. I think you kind of just have to scale his minutes back and games played back throughout the regular season to make him as fresh as possible in the regular season, or in the playoffs, I should say, because we're seeing him miss at the rim a lot.
Right.
He's getting to the rim, and he's just kind of chucking it.
Well, he's getting older. And he was always relying on his superior athleticism. That's going to go as you do get older.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of minutes on him. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but I think you got to hope in a weird way that he has, like, and I heard Zach Lowe and Kevin Arnott talking about this, that you hope like Russell Westbrook has some sort of like late career shooting renaissance, like Jason Kidd suddenly, could add a 3-point shot and add a consistent outside shot. You sort of in a weird way have to hope maybe Westbrook can do that. I don't think that's likely. Unless he's a gym rat and really is working on that. I just think it's unlikely.
It's
less likely than Kidd, I guess. But
right. It's always scary to see the athletic point guards go into their 30s. Where does it go from there? That's why I think you just kind of have to keep him as fresh as possible, and maybe those little layups that he usually hits.
But if you're not trading Russ, okay, and you're not trading Paul George, we showed you the numbers. What are you going to do? Is it look to trade Steven Adams, who's still only 25 and didn't look great in this series?
No, he definitely didn't. Which is bad for him because he had a good matchup going against Enes Kanter. He should have been able to dominate that. He absolutely did.
They need some depth. If they could trade Adams for a third and fourth part rather than what Adams brings, And Adams was getting killed in the pick and roll. Dame was going at him each and every time.
Sam Presti's got to get creative once again here in the offseason. We'll talk about it on the Drop Podcast later this week in greater detail. When we come back, though, have the Nuggets figured out the Spurs. That was a big, pivotal Game 5 win. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more.
Finally.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
Back with the Starters, time for some fill-in-the-blank fun. Trey.
The Raptors finished off their DB sweep last night, beating the Magic by 19 in a game that wasn't even that close. Raps got burned by DJ Augustine in game 1, but were pretty dominant after that and even managed to win last night with Drake in attendance for the first time since November. Guys, fill in the blank. The most encouraging sign for the Raptors is blank.
Well, we knew that they had a number one going into the series, but now we definitively know that they have a Lee.
Number 2.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Pascal Siakam.
How long have you guys planned?
Weeks in advance.
Wow.
Blasted that out of the park. Siakam has increased his points per game from his most improved rookie campaign or most improved season campaign by 6. He was beasting in this series. We were worried, I'm sure, as Raptor fans up here, that Kyle Lowry, after game 1 and his sort of up and down series that he had, is he going to step up? Well, Pascal Siakam just took that role.
Right.
Defensively, offensively, he showed that he's ready for the big lights, shooting over 50%, 22 points per game. He's ready.
Well, I'm going for 4 straight wins because even though the Raptors lost game 1, which they always do, they didn't actually lose another game for the series, which I think everyone expected. At some point they would have dropped one last night or game 4 perhaps, but they didn't do that, and I think that's just a sign of their maturity and of having guys like Kawhi Leonard and Marc Gasol on that team to just steady them. Because in the past, we've seen the Raptors look good at times and then also just play terribly in that same series. And I just didn't think we saw that at all. They really took control of that series after that game 1, which again, wasn't a terrible loss. It was just a sort of a bit of an unlucky loss and a bit of a typical loss, but they sort of flushed that down the toilet and took care of business.
Yeah, the most encouraging sign for me is the
Flushing,
defense.
number 2. Sorry.
Number 2 down the drain. It's the defense, because after that classic game 1 stinker, to bring it back to number 2, they completely shut down the Magic, guys. And I know the Philadelphia 76ers are a much better offensive team than the Magic. I get that. But the Raptors, that starting lineup is dangerous when you've got Kawhi and Marc Gasol. Danny Green is a great defender. You said it. Siakam. Kyle Lowry is one of the better point guard defenders in this league. When they are engaged and they're getting more time and getting a little more comfortable with each other on that end of the floor, they can just shut down teams. They are scary in how much switching they want to do, the big and Gasol. So the defense heading into this next series is going to be something to watch. Trey, our next one.
All right, in other DB sweep news, the Sixers crushed the Nets last night as the dueling Eastern Conference blowouts Had your boy flipping between playoff hockey and WWE SmackDown Live. There's a whole lot of drama in Sixers Nets, but the Sixers look pretty solid in their 4 victories. Guys, fill in the blank. The biggest takeaway from the Sixers win is blank.
I think it's going to be the bench, the bench contributions that you're going to get from this Sixers team, because their starting lineup, they're money. I mean, we're talking, Simmons, Redick, Butler, Harris, and Embiid. They destroyed the Nets, just destroyed them. But, the Raptors have pretty good starters too, so they're going to match up pretty equally there. But I think the Raptors have a better bench, more depth there. So can the bench production of the Sixers, I'm talking guys like James Ennis, who was great at times in the Nets series, Mike Scott, who at times looked good, struggled at other times to hit the 3. Now he might have a heel injury. Do we see TJ McConnell? Boban, does he have any minutes in this series going to the Raps? They need, the starters are going to be fine, and they'll probably play the Raptors starters to some extent equal. Can they get some contributions from some of these other guys? That could be the deciding factor in some of these games.
Can't wait to preview this series.
Yeah.
I'm going for 4 straight wins again, as my same answer as before, because after game 1, I thought Kenny Atkinson had really prepared his team well for Philadelphia, and he really impressed me in that game 1 victory, the way they went after JJ Redick, the way the Simmons struggled, and Embiid struggled as well. And I thought, man, they could be in trouble here. But instead, they just flexed their muscles, Philadelphia, and said, you guys aren't in the same class as us.
One game without Embiid, too.
Yeah, 1 game without him as well. That was Fartgate. We'll never forget that one.
Yeah, that's right.
What a great segment this is for farts and poos. But honestly, that was impressive, because I after that game 1, I thought, whoa, this could be a tough series here for Philadelphia. But instead, in the end, they really just hammered Brooklyn.
They did, especially when Joel Embiid was on the floor. So I wrote Joel Embiid is healthy, because I'm still a little concerned about his health. That being said, when he played, he was amazing. He was seemingly questionable going into every single game. Game 3, he didn't play, he farted, or he smelled one, I guess. But he was a scratch 15 minutes before that game. He only averaged 24 minutes per game in the series. But when he was out there, 25, 13 and a half, leading the playoffs in rebounding, over 50%. He's going to go up against Marc Gasol.
Yeah, I can't wait for Marc Gasol versus Joel Embiid. Again, we are going to make our predictions with this series a little bit later in the week. All right, Trey, final one.
Last night, the Nuggets beat the Spurs in a, you guessed it, pivotal Game 5, leaving Denver just a victory away from their first playoff series win since 2009. And they got 2 chances at it. First in San Antonio on Thursday, where the Nuggets just won for the first time since 2012. Then back in Denver, if we go to Game 7, baby! Guys, fill in the blank. The Nuggets' chances of winning the series are blank.
82.3%. Very specific. Yeah, I sound like John Schumann right now. But when a series is tied 2-2, the Game 5 winner, like the Nuggets picked up last night, goes on to win the series 82.3% of the time. I mean, it's very high. Very, very high. And I like their chances. I think they honestly have figured out the Spurs a little bit. Once they got Torrey Craig into the starting lineup, he has slowed down DeMar DeRozan. Gary Harris on Derek White's done a great job. Jokic, an admirable job on making life a little more difficult for Aldridge. I like what they're doing. I like the matchups. They're winning these one-on-one matchups with their defense, and they're hitting threes. So I think the Nuggets are going to do this.
They are extremely high, high like 420. These Denver Nuggets look like that second-seeded team. They had 7 guys score in double figures in Game 5. The Spurs were up 2-1 in this series.
Yeah.
They were kicking butt in Game 3 after 1 quarter. But the last 7 quarters have been all Nuggets. The better team has showed up. And that's the scary part for the San Antonio Spurs. They got to get some start performances, and they got to hit threes. They essentially got to play sort of punch above their weight a little bit here, because those dudes are playing to their capabilities.
What do you got?
I'm just going 70% because of the Spurs factor.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can never count them out, is what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah. And if they do win, then it would lower the 82.3 that's translated so far.
So much
Probably
math.
not the 70%.
So many
but,
farts. All right, when we come back, NBA's all-time series clinching game winners, we're going to count them down.
Game 7's at home, 85%? What's that?
Last night, Damian Lillard's 37-foot bomb sent OKC fishing, but where does it rank on the NBA's all-time series-clinching game winners list? Let's count them down, a little top 5 action.
At number 5, 2014, Game 6 of Round 1, 0.9 seconds on the clock. Damian Lillard sends the Rockets home.
Incredible.
He's done it before.
Freelance this play too, huh?
Yeah.
Just
Right.
saw Chandler Parsons wasn't anywhere near him. Decided to drop a 3 in his face.
Give me the ball.
We'll see Dame a little bit later in this list. Spoiler. Yeah, don't read lips here.
A little less chill.
Yes, he was pumped. At number 4, Game 5, 86 West Finals.
Ralph.
Rockets, Lakers, yes, that's right, Lee. Ralph Sampson, all 7'4" of them, with a crazy little just flip-in, turnaround jumper there at the buzzer. Rockets were a huge underdog in this series, but upset the Lakers there. And
Great
that's how it
game,
ended.
great game. Keem Olajuwon got ejected in that game.
West Finals, again, 11 years later, it's Game 6, Utah versus Houston. John Stockton steps into this baby. Whew.
That
Hits
is
it.
a pure swish.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the jump that we all remember. Hoppity hop hop.
Wow. The Rockets have been involved in all three of these so far.
Guys out, thighs out.
At number 2, simply known as the shot. Bulls Cavs, 1989. 2-2 in the series, best of 5, of course.
Bulls down 1.
That's right. MJ gets to the line, hangs. Sorry, Elo.
Sorry, you said this was number 2?
Yeah, this is number 2. This is number 2.
I remember Doug Collins said, give the ball to Michael, everyone get the F out of the way.
Yeah.
This is
MJ
play
would
ball.
later do this again in 93 to them.
So what's at number 1? Well, are we prisoners of the moment? Perhaps.
I mean, it's a 37-foot bomb.
Trey was insinuating
For
that this was a
50.
tie game, unlike
Fair.
Thorne, who was below. But yeah, for 50,
The shot itself, though. The shot itself.
the rivalry as
The
well.
shot is called the shot.
Well, the rivalry as well.
This is called the wave.
The wave.
Goodbye.
I've busted your ass for years, as Russell Westbrook said, coming into
Oh,
the-
and that's iconic. That is instantly iconic.
Where's Craig Elo?
When we come back,
Hopefully he's watching the D block.
tonight on TNT, the playoffs, well, they never stop, guys. Jazz Rockets, Game 5. Houston trying to close out that series. And the second game, Clippers Warriors. Warriors trying to close out that series in 5. All right, we asked you, what are some other iconic moments for Lee to recreate? Hit us up on Twitter, hashtag starters. What do you got?
Some great suggestions. Paul says he wants to see you recreate this flip with me trying to take the charge, Lee. Joke's on you, I don't play defense. Another great one from Emil, who says he wants to see Lee recreate the iconic Gilbert Arenas walk-off game winner. But my favorite answer is from Sam, who says you can recreate this iconic moment right now. And yeah, Lee, you can.
You got the glasses.
Yeah, you're perfect, man.
Oh, well.
More John.
All right, very solid play, Lee.
Yeah, I want to go and recreate this beauty here from the Denver Nuggets last night. The ball was fizzing around in the Pepsi Center. Here's an example of it right now. Ends with Gary Harris in the corner for that's what I call a very solid play.
Excellent. We got some time for some fan signs.
Beautiful. This is Albie Mangles.
Right, your stupid face. Wow, that seems a little harsh.
We haven't got time to play around,
Yeah,
mate.
let's
We've
get to
got
the real
actual fan signs. Yes, here we are. Albie Mangles. No, Albie Nichols. All the way from Flinders Ranges in South Australia. They'll get the Albie Mangles reference. This is Court, his fan sign in OKC. He says Westbrook is the GOAT.
This was before Game 5.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes. Good job. And this is Ben, who says thanks for warming up the Orlando Magic with the Sixers. I don't know, something. Great shirt, by the way, Ben. Let's point that out.
Good sign, better shirt. All right, that's it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at 6:30.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, this was a good show for farts and poops and O-faces.
Grace the night, people!